Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 19th hole. We are live on In Between Media. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to In Between Media on YouTube, watch all the different video selections, all the way from NFL here to PGA Tour betting and DFS analysis, all the way to NASCAR, which is a lot of fun. Check out the whole collection. Make sure you join everybody on this channel. We're all loving the content that we get to put out. We are at a tournament this week that will not be here next year. This is the last, and it's March Madness. We got bracket fever. My bracket got busted about a couple hours after I made it. I made it last minute, picked Arizona to win it all. They got bounced by Princeton in the first round. Excellent work by me. I watched a whole lot of nothing on college basketball this year, and I paid for it dearly. But we're at the WGC Dell Technologies Match Play, and we don't get enough match play unless you're Ryder Cup, President's Cup, and there's going to be even less match play next year without this tournament. Let's tune in, let's lock in, and see if we can pick some winners. Let's go. The intro. I don't know how much you want to talk about last week's Valspar. I don't want to talk about it. We can spin it back and talk crap about each other. You did beat me again head-to-head, but neither one of us have really much to brag about. None of our guys were really in contention very long, so...
Yeah, that was actually the minute you were rolling the intro. I was sitting here going, oh, shit, I spent so much time trying to dissect this bracket and everything. I didn't even go back and put together our spin it back. And I'm like, oh yeah,
I already forgot how badly last week. It was a rare swing and a miss week for us. We've picked outright winners pretty much every week except for the Valspar, where Taylor Moore was victorious. Congrats to him on his first PGA Tour win. We did say that the score would be between 8 and 11 under par. It was 10. And we said it would be a first-time winner. It was. We just didn't know who it was going to be that came in at 10 under par, and we definitely didn't have Taylor Moore on our board.
He rated out, and he actually rated out well for me. He was in my model. I played him in quite a few lineups, as a matter of fact, but he was one of those guys I wasn't super confident in, so I didn't throw it out there, publicly, which is right. Hard to take a victory lap on something you didn't say out loud, but yeah, he's
congrats to those who played him. There were a few out there that were throwing him in their bets at 75-1 or whatever he was. So congrats to those people. I didn't think he had it in him, but he does. So congrats Taylor Moore and his followers. That was great. We're headed on to the Florida swing is over. We are headed to Austin, Texas, keeping Austin weird, hipster capital of the United States. And they're going to have the match play for the very last time in 2023 at Austin Country Club. It's a scorer's paradise, birdie making bonanza on this course. But the truth be told, I'm sad that they're ending this tournament because we get 26 of the top 30 players in the world here. We have most of the top 64 are in this field of 64. And it's match play. I love match play. Match play is better if you're playing with your buddies, playing a 4-ball round, and instead of just counting strokes is so much more fun, in my opinion. And there's not enough of it done on the PGA Tour. They have a little bit more of it in Europe, which is why some of these European players have more experience if they make the Ryder Cup or President's Cup against the Americans. You see guys that we haven't heard much of, but they tend to do better in match play format because they're just better equipped for it. They have more experience with the format, and it's totally different from stroke play. And that's kind of the deal with me is analyzing this bracket style knockout tournament. It's a lot like World Cup. We have to survive group play and all the upsets that are going to come from that, and then all the way through the knockout stages to pick a winner on Sunday. I don't know how much golf analysis by stats that you're going to be diving into, but I did a lot more studying on people who are gritty and competitive and be able to make birdies on a course where if you don't make birdies, you're going to get knocked out pretty early on.
Yeah, and I think exactly what you said sums it up pretty well in terms of what you're going to be looking at and what type of player and all that stuff. But the one thing I will say is I spent the majority of my time looking at how it actually would play out. Like if I take this guy from bracket, pool 9, bracket 1, and he moves on, when does he play this guy? And how do you build a lineup around that? And with this tournament in particular, I mean, I really kind of like it because it takes some of that guesswork or some of that analytics out. And this is a lot more just kind of it's a fun tournament to watch. It's head to head. It's kind of like you said, it's gritty. Yeah, so I think this week you focus a lot more on lineup construction. You kind of want to be away from the popular guys. You want to gamble on this a little bit, So
some of these groups are so brutally tough and evenly matched that you kind of want to exploit the chalky guys that are in the tougher groups. And I think we're going to tackle that plenty in the DFS section, but also for the betting side of it. Some of these lines are really soft. Even for when you're betting on DraftKings Sportsbook or a different sportsbook, is they're only paying outright. They're only paying top 2 and top 4. So semifinalists, finalists, and outright winner are all they're going to let you bet on in this kind of format, because they're not going to say, oh, who was 5th place? Because there's no 5th place match. There's a 3rd place match, and that's it. So if you make the semifinals and you have a guy with a top 4 bet, that's going to cash. If you have a top 2 bet and the guy makes the finals on Sunday, that's going to cash. But it's going to be pretty narrow. 64 guys in the field. They're all really good. And some of these guys that are lower ranked are on the rise, on a quick rise. And some of the guys that are kind of higher ranked are on the quick descent in the world rankings. So you kind of have to take it for what it is and pick the hot guys over the guys who might be ranked higher in a better spot on the bracket.
I have nothing more to say. You absolutely nailed that.
Valspar a little bit, because I think it's going to shed some light on who we might be able to look out for, including somebody that you're pretty mad at right now. So, yeah, the Valspar was brutal. We're not going to spend much time on it. Taylor Moore won over Spieth. Spieth was in there. I never bet Spieth. He drives me nuts. Who else was there? Oh, Fleetwood. Tommy Fleetwood. Excellent. That was one of the only guys that I even looked at high in my model that showed up. All the other guys mostly made the cut but didn't do anything. They were like 43rd or 28th, and they're not going to make you any money. Who did you have that kind of popped for you at the Valspar?
Who'd I have that popped? Really the kind of point scorers that I had, Wyndham Clark, managed to get
I hate that too, because that was a BS. He looked terrible on day one, and then he goes out and shoots the lights out on Friday.
I was loving how triggered you were getting off of Wyndham Clark the whole week, really.
I was victory lapping on Thursday because Wyndham Clark was chalky as hell, and I faded him because I didn't really like him to begin with. And when he shoots over par on Thursday, I was like, oh, this is great. Wyndham Clark is a chalk bomb. It's going to tank everybody around me. And then he comes out and shoots the best score on Friday. That not only makes the cut, but puts himself in contention. And the chalk hit on Wyndham Clark. So,
yeah, and then Justin Suh let us down. Akshay let us down.
Akshay, poor Akshay. He looked great on Thursday and then shot 4 over on Friday to miss the cut by 1 shot. Same with Pearson Cootie, missed the cut by 1 shot. The +2 is almost the cut and just didn't quite make it. That was terrible.
My boy Vanderlaan, though, actually for the first day was looking like maybe he wasn't
like
a real
Akshay,
golfer.
though. He was like Akshay.
turned out
Akshay Vanderlaan and Cootie were all teasers on Thursday that just kind of fell flat on Friday.
But I got to say, man, Webb Simpson, it's maybe only the second time this year that I didn't use him. Just had this good faith vibe and feel about Webb Simpson. Yeah, of course, I didn't have him this week. Decided to show up and contend. I mean, why wouldn't he?
That was weird too. And he has his best showing of the season and then promptly fires his caddy.
Which makes perfect sense.
Perfect sense. Well, he didn't. His caddy was unemployed for all of 10 minutes as he's on Carson Young or Cam Young's bag this week at the match play. Let's jump right into the betting part. Club Twirls. Actually, before we hit that, let's spin it back with some whiskey. I understand that you have a Park City, Utah selection of your own.
I do. I have some Rendezvous Rye from High West, which I have not. I have had this bottle probably almost as long as the distillery's been around. No joke. And this is from the era that they weren't actually using their own juice either. So this is, obviously aged and handled and bottled in Park City, but a little different than Bo's variety of High West, which is their actual stuff. So still a pretty good whiskey, pretty smoky, pretty high in rye content. Not necessarily one of my all-time favorites, but I like to break it out every now and then and just revisit it.
Yeah, and like you said, my bottle is from last year when I purchased it, and it's High West Double Rye, which is a blend of two different rye whiskeys. It's a blend of two straight rye whiskeys. So double rye doesn't mean it's got any more proof. It's still a 46% alcohol, 92 proof product. Really good high rye spice notes to me, which really I love. I'm a huge rye guy, and having that extra kick of rye spice it's so nice because right off the bat, you're like, woo, yeah, let's go. And great for mixing in an old fashioned. This stuff is electric, but just drinking it neat is right up my alley. I'm a neat drinker most of the time anyway, and this stuff is good juice.
Absolutely. And then I'll say this, like for not a genuinely their product, this is not bad. The rye though, you can definitely get a ton of licorice bite off of it. It's almost got that medicinal aftertaste to it. I hate to say it that way, but that's the best way to characterize it. I did want to share, I was talking, I think it was 2 weeks ago, maybe we were talking about Blue Spot Irish whiskey, which is one of my favorites. And I was on a mission on Friday night to find some here in town, and I did. And I had several of them, and it is every bit as good as I remember it being. So
what are those cherry cough lozenges? Because that's what I'm getting from this.
Like
brand name.
Yeah, not like Halls. It's something starts with an L, I think.
Yeah, it's like a French name, but the cherry lozenges, that's what this tastes like. And then it's at the rye spice on the back end, just slapping you in the face with it. And that's delicious. That is some good stuff.
Well, I won't completely disagree. How's that?
Man, that's good. Yeah. It's a cherry cough drop, which is a good thing in a whiskey because the note just complements everything else so well.
Like you said, it's fantastic in an old fashioned. Like some of those additives you're putting in an old fashioned, this is going to complement it perfectly.
Oh yeah, with the maraschino cherries. Oh yeah, excellent combo. Dark chocolate a little bit on the back end. I can do that.
I can do that.
Yeah. All right, let's go on. Our buddy Nate, your great friend from Colorado, Nate. He says you are pretty smoky.
He would know. He's known me forever.
Yeah. All right. Club Twirls. Let's play some bets. We're gonna have to pull the bracket up on this because the bracket and the layouts of the groups are going to be very important in both DFS and betting this week. Let's pull that up right after this drop. So let's pull this up. I do have some favorites in mind here, but we're talking brutally difficult on certain parts of this bracket. And I gotta say, I did read a couple articles today by some very well-known golf analysts that we all look up to. We all compete with for airspace, really. It's a good thing. Competition, iron sharpens iron. But they said that John Rahm's group 2 there is the toughest one, and I completely disagree. I think Rahm's got a cakewalk to the final this year, especially with the way he's playing.
So at first knee-jerk reaction when you and I were going back and forth earlier today, I kind of thought the same thing. Now, I'll talk about it more in DFS because it doesn't necessarily apply as much right now. But I did run a couple of models just trying to build out what I perceive to be the type of stats that will reflect a gritty golfer. And the more that I did that, the more that this group definitely started to look scarier. And also they have some of the best tournament history in this group as well. So
Ricky especially, and then Billy's always been a match play guy. So I get it, but
I'm not as gloom and doom as they are though. Like there's people that are like, oh,
as much as
Fowler's coming out of here. It's like, nah, I don't know, man.
And as good as Keith Mitchell's form has been, it's still not even on the same stratosphere as John Rahm's form. We're talking about a course that fits Rahm's game absolutely perfect. It's a bomb and gouge type golf course where you can definitely outdistance yourself just by being a bomber. And then if you have good putting to make clutch birdies from distance and really steal the momentum from your opponent in match play, I mean, that just screams John Rahm to me. He's a guy that can take advantage of holes with long runouts and leave himself shorter approaches and make putts from all over the course. I just think that this is John Rahm's perfect fit, especially when he has 3 guys in his group that are really having good seasons, or in Horschel's case, he's just a great match play player. I just don't see any of those guys knocking him out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this bracket or this pool rather, you look at it one of 2 ways. You either are a John Rahm truther and you make your bet and you move on, or you play some long shots out of here because you're going to get deeper odds on the rest of this pool. I mean, just looking at the book right now.
But Scottie's the favorite defending champion, and I think his group is brutally tough. I mean, we're talking about Davis Riley, as hot as can be right now. Alex Noren is as good of a match play player as you're going to find in the world. Alex Noren is a Ryder Cup stud from last time, President's Cup stud. This guy plays match play out of his mind, and he's got Tom Kim there who could really make birdies in bunches. And then Davis Riley, of course, is just red hot. I think if anybody gets knocked out of the top spot in group play, it's Scottie Scheffler, the odds-on favorite and the defending champion.
I'm a lot with you on that. Actually, I really, really, really like Tom Kim to come out of this group.
That's spicy.
And for a number of reasons, but just watching Tom Kim in the limited match play that we've been able to watch him in, the boy is got a ton of fire. He wants to whoop your ass head to head.
And he loves the crowd.
And the other thing too about this course is, quite frankly, it doesn't suit any one type of golfer. And Tom Kim does a lot of the things that you would want in a course that is kind of suited for anybody. He has a great approach game. He can get a hot putter. It's good around the green game. His driving distance is mitigated here because there's tons of rollout and a lot of the par 4s are very short.
7,100 yards anyway.
Right. No, so I'm with you. I really, really like Tom Kim to maybe upset Scottie Scheffler out of here. Now, I'll be honest. I'm playing a lot of Scottie Scheffler in DFS as well. I'll play both of them.
He's the favorite. It's obvious. So.
I did want to say one thing about John Rahm that before we moved on a little before I got it out of my mouth. But if I'm going to make an argument in that pool of a reason to not play John Rahm, it does go back to the same thing I've said about him for about 3 weeks now, in that these greens are tough, they are fast, they are Bermuda. And those 3 things are not John Rahm's specialty, especially right now. So if you want to tell yourself a story not to bet or play John Rahm, you can definitely focus in on his putting stats, which will back you up.
Okay. Are there anybody like kind of between 3 and 20 that you're on?
There's a few in there. I think I think Victor Hovland is actually one of my more favorite plays. I like his number, 2,500. I think that's a pretty good number on Hovland. He
That
has a good match.
25-1. That 25-1 group is loaded, though.
It is, but out of that group, I'd say it's him and Schauffele that I have the most faith in based on match play records and based on what they do well. And the thing I like about Hovland and match play especially is Hovland can get hot and Hovland can go ice cold. I mean, the nice thing is you have a shit hole, you can bounce back on the next hole. And
yeah, it only cost you one.
Yeah. And so I think I like Victor Hovland in this format quite a bit. And I think 25-1 is a good number on him.
Yeah, I like it. I just think that if you're in that same group there, I mean, Hovland, it's for me, I'd rather play a guy who I know is just an ace at match play. And one of the best match play players in the history of match play is Xander Schauffele. Him and Cantlay have been absolutely nails as teammates and as Ryder Cup partners. So I'm in that same kind of group, that 20 to 25-1. I think Cantlay's 18 right now. I think I'd go with one of those two guys over Hovland, who I think is about 50-50 shot in the match play format. And I mean, Hovland's got a pretty tough group, in my opinion, at least for this format, is he didn't get a very good draw as the 8 seed. He's got Chris Kirk, Siwoo Kim, and Matt Kuchar. Kuchar is a match play ace.
Yeah, I don't know. Matt Kuchar doesn't phase me. Siwoo, on the other hand, a Pete Dye specialist, a short course Pete Dye specialist. Scary. He's already won this year. I mean, he is actually playing probably some of the best golf Siwoo's ever put together in a season. Siwoo is the one that scares me in his immediate group. And then, if he gets out of that and gets into the round of 16, Hovland I'm talking about, and Siwoo for that matter, because I like Siwoo quite a bit too. But if they get out of there, then you're dealing with most likely Jason Day, maybe Colin Morikawa. And Jason Day is an excellent match play player as well. And I think he's at 30-1 still.
Yeah, that's a pretty tough group there with Day and Morikawa. Svensson, can't vote him out. And Victor Perez was pretty impressive last week. A Euro Tour guy that from France that isn't getting a lot of fanfare, but I thought for a second that it was fellow Frenchman Victor Dubuisson, who is a match play expert in Ryder Cup play. Dubuisson, yeah. But Victor Perez, I mean, that group's wide open in my opinion. So you're right. Hovland, if he can get out of that group stage, it sets up pretty favorably for him, because he won't have to face Scheffler or Fleetwood or M or any of those guys that make it through until the semifinal. That would be his quarterfinal would be the first time he faces a really top flight golfer if he makes it out of there. This lower left quadrant is the quadrant of death. Because I love Patrick Cantlay. He's one of the best match play players in the history of golf. But he's got in his group, he's got Panda, he's got Nick Taylor and Harman. I think he gets out of group play pretty easily. But once he does, it's going to be an all-out onslaught of Homa. Whoever comes out of Homa, Matsuyama, Kisner, who's been excellent at this tournament for years on end. It's a pinpoint type golf course, and Kisner just loves playing here. Justin Suh is playing great. Homa's in the group of death, in my opinion. I don't think Spieth has any chance of getting out of his group. I really don't. I think Spieth is getting bounced in round 1. And then Sam Burns is, I think Seamus Power is the class of that group.
I think Seamus Power out of that group. I disagree with you. I like Spieth coming out of there. But I down at the bottom, I actually really like Brian Harman in that group. Not necessarily because I love Brian Harman. I just like the setup for him in this group.
The setup is perfect.
And if he gets out of this group, I mean, he's got a fairly decent path to making it to the semis. And Brian Harman, the thing is, he's a Texas dude. He's lefty. And this course sets up for both of those things. And he's got an excellent approach game. Not super long off the tee, but he is very accurate, and he knows how to putt on fast greens. Brian Harman, in terms of stats, is somebody that I think lines up really well, and you can get a pretty decent number on Brian Harman too, because he's coming out of such a hard quadrant.
I think he's in that 50 to 75-1 because oh yeah, that's great. And in that same kind of realm is your Australian guy from a couple weeks ago who you were mad at me for laughing at you over, Minwoo Lee. Minwoo Lee is this. I don't trust him in a big field stroke play event because the big dogs just get to him. But this is a one at a time kind of gig where if you got a guy with his power, his tenacity, a lot like Tom Kim, where he's going to be playing into the gallery. He's going to be using tactics that really work in match play by getting people hyped up around him, getting momentum in a match. I think Minwoo Lee can come out of that group and cause some trouble for Xander Schauffele's group. Tyrrell Hatton, that's the one that I really like him in match play, and I really like him on this course. But it scares the life out of me. He's got so many big dogs that are probably coming out of the groups around him.
Yeah, I'm probably more out on Hatton, just having had time to review this bracket. Like
he's only 35 to 1. That's not that cheap for him.
Yeah, and I think the hard thing about it is I'm earlier today when we were talking about this, like we both liked Hatton, right? And the more I'm sitting here going over the bracket and looking at what it's going to take for him to get all the way. And let's just say, for argument's sake, he does play the best version of Hatton and makes it all the way to the finals. This is a really grueling tournament for these guys. Like Sunday afternoon, they're all packing their bags ready to go, whether they're competing for the final or not. And Hatton, I think, quite frankly, is going to have the toughest route to get there. I just don't know that he's going to have the stamina to put it together on Sunday. And that's just for betting purposes. I don't mind him in DFS, but
yeah, I just think if he's playing well, he could beat anybody. But if he's not playing at his best, he could go nuclear and just check out, because in this format, you lose a match and you're pretty much not going to make it through unless you win the other two. And you don't have a match. That's the tricky part is match play. You're playing against one guy at a time. And Hatton, I think, if he's on his game, is just as classy as it gets, especially at making birdies and being ferocious as a competitor. Match play has a lot more to do with your personality than stroke play. Some guys are the world-class golfers and never really dominated at match play. Tiger Woods is one of them. Well below 500 record in the Ryder Cup. And then guys like Arnie and Jack and Colin Montgomery, they're just guys that just get it done in match play because they're just built differently for that format. And Tiger's always said that he never really loved match play because it didn't let him dominate on his per hole basis. His intimidation works better at getting in guys' heads and making them just blow up from the pressure. But for whatever reason, I never translated in this format.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got other guys that are mental midgets that have been able to succeed in this format too. I mean, you get the polar opposite. I mean, Ian Poulter is somebody that is
Sergio Garcia.
Sergio, yeah, for sure, as hot-headed as they come, but it affects your competition differently. Like instead of you getting in their head, they're just frustrated sitting there watching you throw fits all day, I guess. But
I think that's what happens to Hatton. His group is super easy, though. I don't see Henley, Herbert, or Griffin challenging him in the first round.
No, Griffin I love for regular like stroke play. Yeah, not because I think he makes birdies in bunches or anything like that, but because he's just such a steady, consistent player. Yeah. But there were a couple guys that I really did like on this side of the page too, like Theegala. Theegala is prone to blowing up, but Theegala probably has more 3-stretch birdie runs this year than anybody. And the name of the game here is getting as many birdies on the card as quickly as you possibly can.
Yeah.
So
I had trouble picking between him and Minwoo. I really did. Minwoo and him are in the same range of bets, 65, 75. But I had trouble picking Theegala over Minwoo because of recent form. But I get what you're saying because he's right there on my model. It pops up right next to Minwoo, and I'm just looking at it going, it's like, well, I don't trust Fitz as far as I can throw him, especially in match play where he's literally never won in match play before in his professional career. I understand he won the U.S. Amateur at Brookline using match play dominance, but since then in the pros, in the WGC Ryder Cup, he's winless. So how are you supposed to say this guy's going to get his first match play win as a professional against guys that are red hot. Like even JJ Spawn is going to give Fitz trouble in match play because all three of these guys are just on higher levels of play right now.
Yeah, and I'll say this: Fitz ought to fire his agent because ever since he did his stint on Netflix, I mean, the guy cannot play golf. I don't know what happened, but he just cannot consistently show up and show out. So, yeah, he's got some mental work to do, and this is not a place to get mentally right.
Especially when he's never beaten a guy at this. It's right. Like Ryder Cup winless. He's 0-4-2 in Ryder Cup. Oh, I lost Conor. I was going to talk about a little bit more about the kind of that 75 to 1 range to 100 to 1. Guys that have had success in the past. Kevin Kisner has been runner up here. He was in a playoff last year with Scottie Scheffler. Ended up getting runner up to Scottie last year. But even guys that are in groups with Rory McIlroy, for example, Keegan Bradley can score on this course. Guys that come in and they're playing well. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to play well this year. But I'm feeling that some of these usual suspects, like you mentioned Harman, and that kind of raised my eyebrows because I wasn't thinking about Harman at all because of the group he was in. And then he remembered, like, well, yeah, Brian Harman actually plays well here every year. Same with Kisner. Those are the two guys that I'm looking at going, just don't mess this up for us, please. I'm not on you. Nobody was supposed to be on Kisner last year, and he still came to play and got runner up. But I need those guys to lay back this year. I really do, because if I'm going to pick an underdog, it's going to be the guy with a clear path to the finals with his game setup. The lowest I'll go is Kurt Kitayama at 90 to 1, because if he wins that group, which he has a good draw with Finau, who's wishy-washy in match play. Meronk, I'm not really going to take seriously because he's playing average on the Euro Tour right now. And then Bez, who's a great putter, but he's so streaky. I can't put a pin in Bez, and I expect Bez to be in a grinder type stroke play tournament, but not in something where it requires a ton of birdies like here. I think Kitayama can go low. If he can get out of the group, you're looking at facing the winner of the weakest group in this tournament, Will Zalatoris, Ryan Fox, Harris English, and Andrew Putnam. I don't know who the hell is going to win that group. Probably Putnam or Fox, if I was to guess. But it's gross, and I think the winner of that Kitayama Finau group is going to probably run through until they run into Jon Rahm.
Yeah, I mean I hate that whole corner of this bracket.
It's tough, isn't it?
It's just I'm probably gonna have minimal exposure because I think there's a lot more carnage up there. You kind of don't like that bottom left corner. I don't like that top right corner.
It's nasty because that winner of that Rahm group is going to be primed. They're going to be. You just know that whoever comes out of that group is going to be scorching hot on the course. And then Cam Young, who has Webb Simpson's agent or caddy now, and Sepp Straka and Corey Connors, I'm out on. They just can't compete here. But Thompson, no, probably not. Cam Young's getting out of that group pretty easily. Then you got a showdown of a really rugged group with Rahm and Cam Young. That's going to be nasty for anybody on that bottom part with Finau, Kitayama, Zalatoris. Those guys are going to be uphill to get to the finals.
Yeah, I think probably as deep as I would go, it'd be Thigala and Minwoo. I don't think I would mess around too much.
Pretty shallow.
Too much deeper than that. I mean, if you want to take a few swings at Kisner just because of his history here, and he truly is an excellent putter, excellent short game, great match play player. He's got the right mentality. A lot of things going for Kiz, and I never full fade Kisner at this event, but he's 130 to 1. 130 to 1, I think, is a good number on Kisner, given the history, given his ability in match play.
I'm looking at the bracket, and I think the only guy that I think could win it from out of nowhere is like Taylor Montgomery, who can roll in putts from all over the world. And if you're in match play, you make a long putt when a guy has a shaky one for the same number on the card. It puts a ton of pressure on that guy to make a relatively easy putt. So that's going to be interesting, is if you get a guy with putting chops on this course, then you could start to see birdies come in bunches. Montgomery's definitely got that in him. He doesn't do well on tougher courses, we've discovered, but on courses like this where it's just a runway of birdies and eagles, I'm loving a guy like Taylor Montgomery who can score with the best of them with that putter.
I'm not going to fight you on Taylor Montgomery. It's somebody that we've kind of liked right along the way. So, I mean,
He's got some soft odds. Soft odds. I'm a big fan of that.
I just, my problem with him is, first off, I actually like Spieth a lot this week.
I can't do it.
So I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit, but let's just say he does get out of here. He beats Lowry. He beats Spieth, right? Then best case scenario, and this is still a shitty scenario. Best case scenario, he's going against, for him, Justin Suh, who's got, I mean, infinitely better form, and right currently, because the only thing Taylor Montgomery's done for us lately is kept a hot putter from time to time. Justin Suh is somebody that we and the rest of the free world were all in on last week. So, I mean, this is, and I said that's the best case scenario for Montgomery, right? Because worst case scenario,
very well get Max Homa.
Runs right into Max Homa or even Hideki Matsuyama. Kevin Kisner would be hell on earth if he gets the ball rolling. So, that one's tough for me, but we don't always agree. We don't always agree.
I'm in this range. I'm just looking at guys who can get red hot and beat anybody. If I'm looking for an upset, I'm going to pick a real Cinderella, and Taylor Montgomery would be a real Cinderella. We can't call Kitayama a Cinderella because he's 23rd in the world and coming in as a player who just won $3.6 million. So he would have been a Cinderella if he was coming in still without a PGA Tour victory. But now that he's on the official list of exempt for the Masters and all that, there's nobody's going to sleep on him anymore. So I'm looking for a guy. If I'm going to pick a Cinderella, it's going to be a guy that can putt the lights out, and that's Taylor Montgomery. But as far as that, it's still because of his odds are softer than I think they should be. And I'm just picking out of my ass because it's a really good number. All right, let's get to our favorite part, which I'm getting my ass handed to in DFS. Trunk slamming Bo over here. I'm on a roll of just completely shitting the bed with my lineups. I'm really upset about that. Even though I've been winning a ton of money on betting, my DFS is awful. So let's get this over with, Connor.
Get you a shirt like slamming the trunk of an old caddy or something.
Yeah, here we go.
The club as well. This would be a wrestling slam.
Yeah, and I don't drive a Volkswagen Jetta, so I'm not that last guy, but that same motion, that was my same reaction when I booked a tee time for tomorrow. Tomorrow's my birthday. First day of spring. It's supposed to be a gorgeous day most years, right? You would think. Today out here is 60. It's 60 plus degrees. It's sunny, a little bit breezy, but gorgeous day. And then I look at my forecast yesterday for Tuesday, tomorrow for my round of golf, and it's supposed to be 46 and an inch of rain. So yeah, that's how things are going. I'm trunk slamming. I didn't even leave the parking lot.
Well, if it makes you feel, first off, happy early birthday. Second off, if it makes you feel any better, here in wonderful Sioux Falls, South Dakota, anybody's ever in town, you can look me up. I'll be more than happy to take you around to the 4 places we go drink. But we still have a standing, I guarantee you, it's 18, 24 inches of standing ice and snow. We're not going to see we're not going to see the upside of 40 degrees probably for another 10 to 14 days. And they're projecting we'll be on the golf courses sometime in May. So,
well, that's something. Yeah, we have, because there's a lot of mountains here. We got the Sierra Nevada mountains. There's lots of beautiful golf courses that are up there at high elevation. Like one of my favorites is Bailey Creek up at Lake Almanor. and it opens in April at the earliest because everything has to melt off. And then as soon as it just thaws out, you get some gorgeous golf on mountainsides with pine trees all around you and the lake in the background. And I'm not going to be able to go up there for 2 months. And every time I book a tee time, the weather seems to turn for the worst. This is California.
Well, I mean, your part of California is not all palm trees and beaches, but
No, entirely not. We're more pine trees and dead grass.
You touched on it earlier, but I'll hit this really briefly before we get into DFS because there's kind of a lot to unpack for anybody that's playing DraftKings.
Leverage is everything.
It totally is. And so this is Austin Country Club, Pete Dye design, par 71, 7,100 yards, a bunch of drivable or potentially drivable par fours.
Nice.
There's no, I would say, just based on the people that win here, compete here, there's not a prototypical golfer you're looking for. The back nine and front nine are pretty stark contrast. One side you've got a lot of elevation changes, a lot of rollouts, some like kind of almost valley runoffs, things like that. And then the other side of the course is kind of in lowlands. You're getting down near the Colorado River. I think it's Colorado River. And you're getting, you can potentially have your Texas wind here. I mean, there's a lot of different aspects to look at. So my recommendation, if you do build models, or if you just listen to Bo and I, a lot of the stats we're looking at are more scoring based stats. Not really looking at
better percentage.
Yeah, birdie or better percentage. I don't really care about bogey avoidance this week. It's one day or one time out of the year you'll hear me say that. Doesn't really matter. You win a hole, you win a hole. So there's that. DK scoring is something I would make sure isn't accidentally weighted in any of your modeling either, because the scoring structure this week is a little bit funky. It does revert to so it's not based on your pars, your birdies, your streaks like that. It's holes won, holes lost, consecutive holes won. And then, of course, what you're hoping for is that somebody wins by 7 holes and you get the match bonus for going up. So that's in a nutshell kind of how DK works this week. The most critical part about DK, though, as you're looking at it, is you in my opinion, the way I build is I build some lineups starting at the very top guy I want to play, assuming he's going to run the gauntlet and be the winner. And then I build some lineups starting with my biggest upset, who will be the cheapest price, and then try and build out that way too. So I recommend looking at it from both angles, because what you want to do is you want to avoid having guys playing out of the same quadrants as frequently as possible.
Yes.
Because you want these guys to go through multiple rounds.
Yeah, it has to make sense. You have to be able to tell a story with your lineups this week and then avoid chalk bombs at all costs. So if you're in a bigger tournament, you might want to pick a string of upsets from each quadrant to happen, because that's going to be the only way you're going to really win money at DFS this week in a tournament play.
And it is important. Bo mentioned it in the beginning. So round 1 is pool play. So everybody's going to get a shot at everybody in their pool. Highest score or in their round rather. Then they're going to advance on to the next round, which is then single elimination all the way through Sunday. So you've got 2 days. 2 days of 2 matches per day. Yeah. Am I doing that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, you're going to play basically 3 matches, and then Saturday, Sunday are going to be single elimination. With Sunday, I think you played 2 matches on Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're going to be playing a lot of golf, but it does go faster because of the format. You get conceded putts, and they just move on. And then, of course, the matches that are one side dominating, that they get over well before 18 holes. And so you're not dealing with an increase in workload for these guys, even with 2 rounds a day. It's maybe a slight bump in shots that they're going to take in one day, but it's not much different when these guys practice for hours and hit hundreds of balls before and after every round. So yeah, don't feel bad for the workload. This isn't like baseball where you play a doubleheader and your team is spent, or a football team that plays on a Thursday after a Sunday. This is not the same. So these guys are all going to be fine. stamina wise. You just want to pick the guys that are going to make sense. Like he said, don't double up on a quadrant if you don't have to.
Yeah, and I was like trying to read my notes because the scoring is so complicated. Just to clarify something I said, it's not going up by 7 holes. The max bonus you're going to get in a match is the plus 7.5 points for not losing a hole. So I just misread my line. So it's confusing. I'd totally recommend reading the rules to yourself too, just to go over it again.
The most important bonus points might be for unnecessary holes. Like if you finish the match with a win in less than 18 holes, they give you credit for holes not played, which is that's kind of cool. So if you expect one of these top guys to just run through this thing, then it might be worth it to eat a little bit of chalk on a top guy, but don't spend a bunch on the flavor of the week. You hear from other analysts, it's going to be tough to win that way in DFS.
Yep. It's like 1.6 points for holes not played. So like I said, if you can start to double and triple up on some of these bonuses, to Bo's point, let's just say you got somebody that doesn't lose a single hole, wins the first 10 holes,
10 and 8. Yeah.
I mean, that's the max amount of points you can get in a single match. All right, now that's significantly muddied.
Let's see, because that does differ quite a bit from betting this tournament. In a way, you still want to kind of tell the story, but you also want to pick guys that you think are going to go all the way in their quadrant. And so if 6 guys were playing 4 quadrants, you're going to have to double up on 1 or 2 of them. But that's kind of the balancing point, is you kind of have to believe in a couple of these upset wins and groups to carry through to be less than chalky. Who do you like? I think all of us are going to play a little bit of Rahm and Scheffler, and you probably play some Spieth. But like, who are you targeting here to take it the distance from group play and onward?
So the 2 guys that I guess the best way to do this maybe would be to say the 2 guys up top in the salary that I think have the best shot at navigating all the way through and winning. And for me, that's Cam Young or Rory McIlroy. And mostly with Rory, it is not anything to do with his recent form. It is mostly to do with his path to getting to the finals. Like, his path to getting there leads him right into either Cam Young or Jon Rahm. The thing I like about that is if I play the counterpart on that side of the bracket, so Cam Young or Jon Rahm, I get somebody all the way to 2 people all the way to the semis, and then I'm assured I got 1 in the final. So that's the way I'm looking at that side, and those are 2 of the more expensive guys you can play.
I think that's pretty smart too, because you're covering a whole side, and predicting a whole side is the winner. Like, you're saying that's a stronger side, and the left side is a little weaker in comparison to how you feel it's going to go. That's an edge to attack, because if you believe in that side of the bracket, you could score a lot of points just by favoring one side. And I can't imagine many people are going to do that same thing.
I wouldn't think so. I think people are going to try and do it the way that they do NCAA bracket. I think they're going to go,
which is also poorly is how they do it.
Well, in every single year, you'll hear people, not only regular people that, average people that, maybe just dabble in DFS, but you'll hear industry professionals talking about how they screw this up every single year because they get too fixated on playing like what they deem to be the best plays. Well, you can't do that this week. You have to actually look at this bracket that we have on the screen, and you've got to tell yourself a story. And if your story doesn't come to fruition, it doesn't come to fruition, but at least have a clear and concise path to getting guys through these brackets. Because otherwise you're going to have 4 of your 6 guys are out in the first round or playing each other in the second round. And what's that do for you?
That's nothing, losing. And that's kind of the thing, is every single one of these golfers visualizes every shot before they hit it. So, I mean, that's kind of the strategy here, is I'm taking each match into consideration. In group play, you have to consider each guy against the other 3. and tell yourself, okay, how are these matches going to go? Because if you get the group stage right, you're going to be sitting real pretty, because there's going to be a lot of carnage on those first 2 days in group play, and that can make or break your whole rest of your tournament. Because if you get a bunch of these guys in group play to pass through and you don't have too many overlaps, that's going to be the way to do it. And so I'm looking at each one of these individual group play matches, and I'm picturing, how is this match going to go on this course? And I could be wrong, but I'm usually right on these things. So
I was going to say, you probably can't see this on air. I didn't send it to you, but I mean, my bracket, my handwritten bracket, I mean, is a bona fide if this, then that type of roadmap. You know, if this guy wins here, this is the guy I want. So, so I mean, yeah, you gotta be conscious of what you're doing. And those, like I said, those are the two guys I want up top. Bo, do you see two other higher price guys that you like better?
I think, just one. Patrick Cantlay speaks to me, because just a world-class match play player, obviously a world-class top 10 golfer. This is a guy that's got ice water in his veins. Match play guys that stay flatline like that. I've played a lot of matches, and I'm not the flatline guy. You might be able to tell my personality is not Patrick Cantlay's. But those guys that are like that, they're just icy cold no matter what, they'll drive you nuts in match play. Like you're expecting an emotional response when you score something in a guy's face and they don't even change, and you're just like, what the hell is this guy on? He's beating me and he's showing no remorse and no emotion whatsoever. That's why I think Patrick Cantlay can go far, especially when I really like his draw in groups, as well as his pathway to the finals seems like the weakest to me.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of love for Harmon down there, and it's a price. It is.
I don't understand that, though. I just don't think so. I don't see it like you do. I think Panda's got a better chance of beating Cantlay than Harmon.
I already told you, out of that quadrant, I like Spieth better than Cantlay too. And
we're gonna have to disagree wholeheartedly on that one.
Yeah, for sure. I think getting into the kind of like the 9s and the 8,000s region. I talked about it already, but I'm pretty big into Coughlin this week. And I'm super into playing Tom Kim out of that same quadrant up there and upsetting Scottie Scheffler.
I like the upset call, but Kim is, I think, more expensive than I expected. I pegged him in the low 8s, and he's at the very top at 8,700. That's too much.
For me, he works, and not to give away too much of my lineup, because you definitely need a little bit of an edge on this week. But I've got McIlroy, Young, and Kim in a lineup, and it leaves you a pretty decent string of upsets that are in separate quadrants at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that you can really load up on a couple of top guys here. Tom Kim. It's not the worst play in the world. Like I said, I like it a lot. But I just like guys down here a little bit lower, a little bit better to build around. So, like you say, you found a Tom Kim lineup that made good sense, and it had you pretty confident. I didn't have that much success trying my hand, so you'll have to send me some ideas on a Tom Kim lineup that makes sense, because it didn't pan out the way I hoped it would.
I'll send you some. There's one guy in that lineup that you're gonna roast me for. I'll just tell you. I'll tell you who it is. I do.
Please indulge me.
Nick Taylor in that lineup. But Nick Taylor's been playing really well. He has proven over the last few weeks he's been able to get in the ring and box. And if I have to pick a singular pool on this bracket that I think is weak, I do not share your love for Cantlay. I can go say it a dozen times. I think that group is so up for grabs. I think it could be any of them. So why not Nick Taylor?
You just talked about how great Harmon is, and you're picking everybody else except for Harmon. I get it.
I mean, how many lineups do you think I have? I don't have just one. I'm just saying the one with the 3 top heavy guys has Nick Taylor in it.
Well, he's only 6,600. If you're down there, I like KH Lee a little bit more. I like Victor Perez a little bit more. So I just don't I don't see that Cantlay fold up kind of performance out of him. I think he rolls in that division. So that's where we're really different, is we're just like between Spieth and Cantlay, we can't decide which one of us is going to be right, which is kind of fun. But this sub 7 area that we're going to get to in a little bit is pretty suspect. It's sketchy down there, especially for pathways that you're looking for at value. Is there anybody in the low 8s that you're on? And you said Thigala. I kind of agree with that one because that's a really low price for him.
I did see that question in the chat from Jacob about Zalatoris. I do like so Zalatoris. I agree with you. That pod is not very good. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I think the thing that people overlook is Harris English is actually a pretty good match play player. And yes. Ryan Fox actually outside of the United States has been on quite the year. And the other thing too is Zalatoris, though his swing looks like it's been ironed out and he's figured out how to swing around some of the back issues and reconstruct his swing, his putter still scares the living piss out of me every time he stands behind a ball.
It's so bad.
And this is not a course that I feel like you can kind of get lucky with your whirly gig putting. This is lightning quick Bermuda. A lot of weird
not
breaks.
Forgiving on the greens, but you can take advantage of not needing a lot of long putts. But if you're left with long putts or those knee bucklers for par, that's going to be really hard on this course. And that's where Zalatoris is the worst. He's just really shaky on those in-between putts. And we got to pay some respect to Putnam because Putnam on this course pops in my model.
Yeah, I mean, here's my thinking on this particular pod is if you're doing a bracket challenge, like if you're doing it on the Dell website, or if you've got a group of friends together, you're doing a full bracket challenge with or whatever, like I would 100% put my money on Zalatoris to win this group. But
yeah,
at $8,900 for DraftKings purposes, I don't see him. I really don't see him moving much past that. I mean, my assumption would be
he's got the Kitayama Finau winner, or even Bez or Moron could win, who for all we know. But Finau or Kitayama would crush the winner of that group, whether it's Zalatoris or not.
That's how I feel right now. I think Zalatoris in the not too distant future is going to be a force.
He's got to figure it out eventually.
I just can't. At $8,900 again. This is strictly a DraftKings statement. At $8,900, I just can't pay that for him when I can have Tom Kim or I could have
Tommy Fleetwood,
J Day for $200 more. There's just better players that I trust more in that section. I mean, it's a good question. Zalatoris is dangerous on approach, so it would not surprise me to see him pop off. But
yeah, it's a pathway thing for him and a little bit of price. Okay, let's move on down. I'm a huge fan of my guy from NorCal, Kurt Kitayama at 7,600. That kind of upper sevens group is really appealing to me because I do have some love for Horschel in this event. Chris Kirk has been playing really well, but watch out for Minwoo Lee. Like from my two guys here, Minwoo and Kurt Kitayama, but at the same price, you can load up on 8s and 7s in this event and gain a lot of leverage that way.
You are never allowed to put the words "my guy" and Minwoo Lee in the same sentence ever again. Ever.
He's Conor's guy. I started liking him this week, so that's you wrote him off. You were pissed after 3 weeks of shit, and then you finally fade him, and he goes off for once, and that's golf, baby.
No, and so right there in that bracket, I like Minwoo, or in that bracket in that pod, I like Minwoo, I like Thigala, and then right in the next pod right above it as a possible upset, I like Tom Hoagie over Schauffele. I think Tom Hoagie.
That's a huge upset.
Hey, Tom Hoagie is number 1 in this field for opportunities gained. He's number 5 in this field for proximity from any distance you look at. Yep. He's done well over the course of the last few weeks. Even in bad conditions, he's still managed to continue excellent ball striking, which quite frankly is more than I can say for Xander at the last 2 tournaments he's teed it up at. So
I know, but Xander in match plays nails.
7,700 for Tom Hoagie, who rates out infinitely better in my modeling. The minimal amount of modeling I did, but
that's pretty good. That's pretty good because your recent form argument with Schauffele is pretty spot on.
So I like, if you're looking for an upset, I think
I'm not gonna say it's not gonna happen because I love me some Hoagie. We're both Hoagie kind of guys, but Schauffele is just like every time I bet against Schauffele in this kind of a thing, like Ryder Cup, President's Cup, the dude just wins matches, and that's really hard to go against. But I'm not opposed to it because of the price difference there, especially when you have a pretty clear path through Tyrrell Hatton, Rory, and Fitz or Thigala. I like Thigala in that group too, or Minwoo. Is anybody giving Fitz? Fitz ain't going anywhere, right?
You just can't pay for Fitz, man. Like, you just can't this week. You can't pay $8,500 for Fitzpatrick.
Too much.
Just too much.
The rent is too damn high.
Siwoo is somebody I talked about earlier. I love Siwoo at 7,500. I love Siwoo's pod too. I think Siwoo can definitely beat Hovland.
Yep.
Again, I can like 2 guys from the same pod. Like, I like
Hovland. You can't just say I'm going to pick all the perfect guys on one lineup and call it good. That's not. We know from experience that bracketology is going to be really painful if you're only doing one lineup with one idea.
Yeah, and if this is the first year, I'll throw this out there. If this is the first year you've done DFS Dell match play, it'll be the last year you do it. But I'd recommend playing like the 50 cent or the $1 or something like that, where you can just build a bunch of different bracket outcomes, because this will have you ripping your hair out by Thursday afternoon.
Because the guys that you're going to be like, oh yeah, they're going all the way. They're going to get bounced in group play. They're going to lose their first match 6-5. You're going to be pissed. It's the tilt off tournament. You are going to tilt your face off regardless.
One of the better sweats though, if you got a good lineup going.
Yes, that is true.
I did want to say a little bit more about Siwoo, and then I know we had another question too, but with Siwoo, excellent history, great on Pete Dye, great on short tracks, great form this season. And his pod itself, outside of Hovland, I'm really not worried about the rest of them. And if he gets out of that, I actually wouldn't be that worried about him going up against Day or Morikawa. So it's not until the semifinals that he hits any kind of a speed bump. And in my opinion, that speed bump would be Scheffler or Tom Kim. And so I really like the value for Siwoo's possibilities at that price.
Yeah. Am I smoking, or is Seamus Power way too cheap at 7,200?
I have a lot of Seamus Power. He's in a bunch of my lineups.
How is he so cheap? I just want to know. The dude's playing so great this year. Isn't he 4th in the FedEx Cup standings right now?
So answer Jacob first, and then I do have some feelings on Seamus. Hatton might be the freest. What do you think?
I think he's asking whether Hatton is the most likely to win his group of anybody.
Yeah,
I see it.
Think so. Yeah,
I
probably.
Probably. I mean, unless you're saying Rory's going to come out of that group, then Hatton's week will be over pretty quick if Rory wins the group below him, because Rory doesn't have a whole lot against him. Stallings, Bradley, and McCarthy is a pretty easy cakewalk for Rory. And so I have a feeling Tyrrell Hatton's going to have to pull off an upset to advance that far. Then it kind of clears up because they're those Hoagie Schauffele groups and Fitzpatrick Thigala, is they can beat that lower quadrant of winners is going to be able to beat that other quadrant of winners. So yeah, I think if Hatton pulls off that upset over McIlroy, which is most likely to happen there, then you're looking at a guy who can make the finals. But oof, yeah, I don't see any way that Rory doesn't come out of that group that's on this course. Do you?
Denny McCarthy can get hot.
He's a good putter.
Yeah, and he is a good putter. But no, do I think Denny McCarthy plays 3 rounds of golf with a hot putter and great approach? No. Do I think Rory plays 3, even if they're just average rounds?
And still wins.
And still wins the pod, yeah.
When I went match by match, I didn't have Rory losing any of them, so it was pretty easy for me to move him on.
I actually think I'm most confident. I'm a little different on that one. I'm probably second most confident about Hatton. I'm most confident Cam Young wins his. Sepp Straka, Corey Connors, and Davis Thompson.
That's rough. Yeah, that's rough. If Cam Young doesn't win that group, I'll be very disappointed in him.
Yeah,
just let you know, Cam. I'll be very disappointed if you don't make it out of group play.
Yeah, I think Cam Young, and then I think Tyrrell Hatton is a very close second. But Lucas Herbert is pretty decent, and Ben Griffin is very consistent. So it's not a cakewalk, but I think Hatton is better than the rest of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, and feeling about him the whole show.
That's one of the ones I am least confident about. I am definitely.
Yeah, that's where we're different. Is I think Cantlay is going to steamroll all 3 of those guys.
Yeah, you're getting wild this week.
I must be wild just to play this damn game of the way I've been playing it. I need to change it up.
Anybody else in the 7s that you're looking at?
Alex Noren. I have a feeling he's going to be a pretty tough force in his group. It's a tough group, but I think that he's got the chops to do that kind of upset. And at 7,000, that's all you need him to do is advance at a group stage. And he definitely has the match play chops to do it at that price.
Yeah, he really hasn't had too bad a form lately either. I mean, he's been playing on the upswing for sure.
Yeah, I just think quality match play players with good history, like Ryan Fox at 7,000, is a decent play because we've seen it before. They're not wondering about their match play chops, and down there you just want an upset for group play because he pays off as soon as he makes it into that knockout round.
6K.
Whoo, it's nasty down here. Andrew Putnam, 6,000 flat.
I can't.
What about the Postman, JT Poston?
I actually would have some interest in JT Poston.
Me too.
And I'm just double checking. I had him written down, so I just want to make sure I have the right info before I start talking about his path.
Yeah.
So I think JT Poston's got a pretty substantial chance of getting out of that group.
Yeah.
I would not be confident in him beating Scheffler. I would be more confident in him being able to at least pace with Tom Kim, who I think is coming out of the one above him.
Yeah, that's I think that's a good call because Poston's playing great this year. The other guys down here, yeesh, woof. Putnam just because his short game's so good. But yeah, if you're down in the 6s, you probably messed up.
Yeah, I mean you're gonna have to get
too much value in the 7. Too many great plays in the 7s, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think if you map it out, you can avoid this range pretty easily. But if I'm in the 6s, darts that I would like to throw, I like this Schauffele group. To kind of target some upsets. I wouldn't be opposed to throwing a few bucks at Aaron Wise coming out of there. It's 6,800.
Oregon.
And then like I said, if anybody is going to be able to outseat Rory, it's going to be Denny McCarthy out of that group.
Yep.
So it's 6,900. I think that's another viable option if you don't think that Rory, if you don't think Rory's playing that well, somebody's got to come out of that group.
Yep, that's correct. All right, that's all we have. It's you have any
Outright
final
winner,
comment? Outright winner. I said Rom from the beginning. I just think Rom is too good. He's too dominant in this kind of format on this type of course. And the way he's playing now means that I'm going to be watching complete his first match. I think he's going to win 6-5 or something crazy dominant like that. And you're going to be like, uh-oh. I'm done dummy fading John Rahm, especially when I get 11-1 on him for the first time this year. And then in DFS, he's as good as any other 10K plus guy. So if I'm going to pick dominating performance from John Rahm for the first time this year, this is it. This is it for me. I'm saying done with the dummy fade for at least this week.
I think I like Cam Young. I think Cam Young.
Woo, that's spicy. First win in the match play.
I think Cam Young.
He won't even be able to defend his first title.
I'm telling you this. I think it's Cam Young, and I think he's gonna face whoever comes out of that top left quadrant.
Yeah.
And then I think Rory goes up against most likely, in my opinion, Jordan Spieth for third.
Yeah, I think my final four were I don't even have it pulled up. Oh yeah. So I had Scottie, I had Cantlay, Rahm, and I think I went with Hatton, just an upset pick. And so yeah, I think Rahm just I think this is gonna be one of those performances where we're like, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Rahm was pissed off and scuffling a bit, not very much, but a bit for his standards, and went scorched earth in Austin, and it wasn't even close. So that's kind of the narrative I told myself as I played it all out.
I don't know. I'm fanboying a bit, but I could see Rahm going down in the group play. I could see Fowler coming out of there. Fowler's been on fire.
That would be fun. It'd be fun, except for my bets. It would be really fun.
It would be fun to see Ricky just mount a massive charge. So maybe I would. Yeah, I don't hate that. Fowler might be a good deeper play.
I'd root for that. I would root for that. If Ricky comes out of the group, I want him to win the whole thing.
It was straight up for sure. All right. If anybody's tuning into us for the first time tonight, this
is not like any other episode because this format is ridiculous.
Yeah. So even though I feel like we did a pretty good job, let's toot our own horn. I feel like we broke it down pretty good.
Oh, toot away, baby. Toot away. We're awesome. Join us next week. We won't have match play next week. Thank goodness. We're getting close to the Masters. Get excited for Magnolia Lane coming up next month. That's going to be excellent. But let's get to cashing at the WGC Dell match play this week. Check out my article on Betting Pros. It's all about what I just said with Rahm and Cantlay being the stars of the show because they're just equipped for this type of tournament. We really appreciate everybody who's watching. That's awesome. And we're getting more and more viewers. We do appreciate everything. If you can like the video, leave a bunch of comments like you, Jacob, and Seth. Of course, Seth is promoting he's getting a high on his own supply here.
We know that guy.
We know that guy. We saw Nate Paul vote pop in here. That's one of our OG brothers. Jacob Brown's a new one. I appreciate Jacob Brown popping in here. Dee from the Lake House, one of our favorites. I'm sure a couple of our regulars are working right now and they'll probably come in and watch a replay. We appreciate everybody who tunes in. Make sure you subscribe to In Between Media for us and everybody else, football, NASCAR, basketball. I'm sure we have every kind of lifestyle sports piece you can think of on this channel. From Conor, I'm Bo. We are the 19th hole live. We'll see you next week. Oh, we got the cheers. I can't even click the button. Look at me.
You made it all the way until now.
Yep.